Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Supp Talk Radio, Sunday lunch edition. We are joined by two-thirds of the Muscle Insider crew. Unfortunately, Scott Welch is just a few minutes behind. But as always, Supp Talk is always about firsts. And today, it's a father and son team that I've never had before. I'm excited. We'll talk bodybuilding. We'll talk about life in general and kind of see where the story goes. But folks, allow me to introduce Kevin and Wendell McAllister. Gents, welcome to the show.
How's it going, John? Thanks for having us.
I appreciate it. And Wendell, I know this is your first podcast, and I truly appreciate you joining as well, my friend.
Thank you.
So, Kevin, I guess we'll start with you. Give me your background. What was your introduction into, I guess, the bodybuilding world?
Like my dad was a firefighter back in the day. So he was the first guy that didn't want to have a beer belly sitting around. So he grabbed the weights and he was working out all the time and working on his nice hair. And as a kid, I was exposed to that training. And it was, as I got older, it was a decision between skateboarding and lifting weights. And I didn't necessarily navigate towards the lifting the weights. It was skateboarding.
Okay.
But I still loved bodybuilding. My dad didn't get me into bodybuilding per se, but I always admired the physiques, Frank Zane's and Arnold and, the Golden Eagle. And as I got a little older, the Lee Priests and, then I discovered Jay Cutler and it was over. So when I started lifting weights, I sucked at it. I was a rail. I wanted to smoke cigarettes and not eat food and think you could get muscle. But yeah, then the magazines got me into it. Like anybody that's born in the 70s or before, that's when it's magazines, right? So,
yep.
And they just looked like, Arnold Schwarzenegger in the movies, right? And then Jay Cutler, identified with him. Just you didn't see too many guys, and he killed it, and I followed it ever since then. And I had the bodybuilding like I am now side. I have to thank my friend Valerio for getting me an opportunity to work with the pros, pick them up at the airport and that kind of thing. So it went from there. And then I met Scott at Expos.
So being in Canada, what magazines are in Canada did you have access to years ago?
There's Muscle Insider, which used to be a hard copy. But the same thing, Flex, MD, Muscle Fitness.
Okay.
I still have like uber old Flex magazines that his mom, when we were married there, was always trying to throw out. So I have them hidden in the storage locker. So it was like, you can throw anything out, but you can't throw out my old Flex or MDs,
You're fortunate because my wife finally made me purge everything. So I went on eBay just to see what they were going for. But magazines on eBay are just, they're dirt cheap. Nobody watches or reads media anymore. So I was big in, I don't know if you're familiar with the magazine Muscle Media 2000. That was kind of my Bible back in the day. And that's the only thing I kept. I got rid of all my other magazines, and now doing the Masters Muscle show, it's like I wish I kept them because all these people I had are now future guests, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, even seeing things like old ones with like, with Phil Heath before he won, and he's on the cover, and things like that, and just Dennis Wolf when he had his cover, like just epic covers. The foot stomp of Jay, Ronnie Coleman into the King. They just, Instagram just can't do those things justice, right?
Exactly. And Wendell, did you fall into this because of dad, or did you like it on your own, or
My dad brought me into the whole everything.
So he met Jay. I took him. His mom and I took him when he was 2 weeks old to his 2010. So it would have been like first week of October, right at the end. Jay had there's Scott.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Insider himself, Scott Welch. Welcome.
Sorry, I was late. Daddy duties. It's 3 hours behind you guys here on the West Coast in Vancouver. So it's only 9:07 a.m. on a Sunday. So the gym workout and then come down and make the son some healthy protein pancakes.
Scott, could you turn your phone sideways if it's not an inconvenience?
Yeah.
Well, I was just asking Wendell how he got introduced into bodybuilding here when he was telling us his first introductions, I guess.
Oh, he's a veteran. He's met the best of the best.
But yeah, Jay Cutler held him, so he was 2 weeks old. His mom and I took him. Jay had just won his fourth, and 2010 would be his fourth if I remember correctly. So, he came to Toronto, did a seminar guest posing. So we waited there with this little guy, 2 weeks old. He like maybe was 6 pounds and like a quarter. He was small, and he slept. We changed him twice, fed him everything. Long story short, 1:15 in the morning, we finally get the line done, and Jay's like, "Holy crap!" because he was so small, and so it's an iconic little picture. I call it an iconic picture, and it's Jay holding this little baby, Wendell, and then I put it on a picture on a shirt, and then Jay saw him at the Arnold, and it was just hilarious, the two of them catching up. So,
did you do something similar with Phil Heath too? Did I see a picture with Phil Heath as well?
Yeah, Scott was there. Muscle Insider was covering it. We did a Phil Heath seminar, training camp before the year he won, or I think it was the second year or first year before he won. He was still the phenom. And we did a training camp, and he picked up Wendell and held him. So I put that picture on a shirt, and we were fortunate enough to get Phil and Hani saw it when we were at the Expo there when they did their Legends seminar. And Phil was gracious enough to take him backstage and sign it, and it was pretty cool. So that he'll never wear that one ever again.
So Wendell, you had some great interviews with some great bodybuilders. Who was maybe your favorite at the show, and maybe your all-time favorite?
Well, I couldn't pick a favorite since all of them were amazing. But
good
you
answer.
Can be honest. It's okay. You can be honest.
Probably my top 3 favorites were probably Derek Lunsford, James Hollinshed, and Nick Walker.
So what do you think of Jay Cutler, though? Not following Dad with Jay Cutler's?
Well, I didn't get a chance to interview Jay Cutler at the Arnold, but yeah.
Those are your active bodybuilders.
Yeah, my active. But when I interviewed James Hollinshed, we were talking about video games. It's pretty cool.
So I have somebody that kind of maybe begs to differ. So I want to show a quick video here from a close person.
I have an idea.
Yo, Wendell, what's up? Vinny Galante here. So rumor has it that Jay Cutler is your favorite bodybuilder. How come I'm not your favorite bodybuilder? Jay Cutler's a good choice. He's an amazing guy, amazing bodybuilder, and also an amazing human being. Thank you for the interview at the Arnold Classic. I appreciate you. And I hope you enjoy every contest you go to and you meet all your favorite stars. Peace.
That's awesome.
Nice.
That is
very
awesome.
Nice. That's so cool.
he was very touched. He was very touched. And again, I asked him afterwards, and you were just very polished, very professional. And I give you a lot of credit for being your age. And obviously, if I was 12 walking up to a 300-pound bodybuilder, I don't think I'd have enough strength or enough, I guess, strength to do it. So kudos to you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So Scott, what's up with you, my friend?
Not much. I mean, this was a hard act to follow with Wendell. I mean, he went down there, and obviously Kevin has done this with us in the past at the Olympia last year in Las Vegas. So going back to going to Columbus and seeing him perform, seeing Junior perform in front of the camera was a really cool surprise. We hadn't planned this going in. So to actually see it happen live and then just go with it, I thought it was really, really cool. And, you know, I've never seen anybody do it before. And I think, Laura Lee Chapatos, she was just so, like, you could just see the, oh my God, I can't believe I'm being, interviewed by someone shorter and with the mic. And, it just was a really unique way. And I think what I liked about it most was it showed the bodybuilding fan of these stars how they would be in front of a kid. Because when you see an interview from Muscle Insider or RX Muscle or, any of these places, big media sources, Muscular Development, a lot of it is the same, and me being backstage and Kevin being backstage and seeing, somebody come off the stage and it's Brandon Curry and he just won. And what does it feel like to win your, Arnold Classic today? And what did you do differently from the Olympia to the Arnold? It's all the same, and everyone just takes a little bit of a different. What's next for you now? What's the next show? Whereas Wendell's sort of just, why are you so short?
That was
things
awesome.
That were just not what anyone is used to seeing them. And anyone in the industry, if I had asked that question, they would walk away from the interview or they'd be angry. And then they would tell other pros, don't interview with that guy. He's a troll or, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, what would a kid ask these freaks when they see them, like freaky mass and things like that. So I just thought it was really interesting to see that. And I'm surprised no one had thought of doing this before, just a kid's perspective on what would you like to ask the winner of the Arnold Classic. Or I thought it was really, really refreshing. And I thought that it was amazing that Kevin took the initiative to bring his son, to give him that confidence to be in front of somebody like you just touched on, where you're nervous and what should I ask? What should I say? It takes a lot of courage. I mean, I tell you firsthand, when I was telling Kevin how to prep for the Olympia, you got to practice in front of the mirror. You got to practice with your phone on, get recording, you got to practice lives just to get yourself, how do you go the intro, the outro? And the more of them you do, I mean, you run your own podcast and you've been in the industry for a while, but you can be in the industry for a while, but doing an intro with a guest is not as easy as it is to just talk with your friends about that person. Then how do you close it off? And what was that I was supposed to say again? Who was the sponsor? Like, that stuff is hard to remember, but I thought that for the development of Wendell, to be able to, to get that self-confidence up, to get that public speaking presence up, the charisma up, it was a phenomenal experience for him. And for Muscle Insider, it was a great way of, innovating in something that has become commoditized with the way interviews are done these days. There's little depth in them, and he really did a great job.
Wendell, walk me through, okay, does Dad just tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, we're going to the Arnold and you're going to interview people? Or like, tell me about the conversation.
So this is kind of how it went. So my dad, he was like, Wendell, do you want to go to the Arnold and do some interviews? And then I was like, and then it went back and forth. Yes, no, back and forth. And then I finally made up my mind and decided to go to the Arnold, and for a 7-hour car ride.
So who did you think of the questions on your own, or was Scott or Dad feeding you questions to ask the interviewers or the interviewees?
50-50.
Okay.
Yeah, I told them to
some basic questions.
Some basic ones, and just to get an idea. He had some ideas, and that is just to kind of keep it short and sweet.
Yep.
And not go too long, because you're at an expo. You got all these fans there that are, you're getting cut eye, to be honest. You're cutting in a little bit and you're doing the nod and you're waving a microphone. And I've been the fan before. I mean, I'm still a fan. I'll die a fan, but I've been the guy in the line at the Olympia waiting to see Jay Cutler when I actually know him, but I still wait in line. And some dude walks up with a microphone and a camera, and you're like, oh, really? So that's why I said keep it short and sweet. And you can get into the softball questions, like asking them like, do they like pets and everything, but then you could kind of get lost with it. So you just don't want do you have a dog? And they answer yes. And you're like, or their dog just passed away, and then you just ruined their weekend because they're reminded of it, that kind of thing.
So Wendell, did you go with a list of people, or is it like whoever you see, I'm going to go approach them and kind of get an interview in?
Well, there was a list of people that I do and need to interview. And also there was some other people off the list. Yeah. Okay.
What do you mean by need to interview?
When I mean need, I mean like I really want to.
Really wanted to?
Like Nick Walker's an obvious one.
Okay.
But he really wanted to get or meet again, because he met Bumstead back in Toronto a few years back, before he was just going there. And it's pretty cool. I put him on a shirt too. With him, Wendell's doing a vacuum pose. So he wanted to meet Bumstead, and I was surprised, actually. He knew who Rami was, but after seeing Rami on stage, he was locked in, and he's like, holy cow, that's why they call him Big Rami. Like, he really, really wanted to meet Rami. So
yeah, I did actually say that. That's why they call Big Rami Big Rami.
And he was like wanting to work on it, like learn some Egyptian so he could say hello to him, I'm
sure one of his legs is probably the size of you, Wendell.
Yeah.
Was there anybody that you wanted to meet, but for whatever reason weren't able to? They were busy or just not at the expo or something?
Like my dad said, Chris Bumstead, but there's like he kind of exited this certain way because there's like so many people crowding the exits to meet him. And some other people.
Rami.
Yeah, Rami, and actually on the finals, I walked past Arnold.
Okay.
Very cool. Very cool.
Very nice.
Scott got a good chat with Arnold, which was pretty amazing thing, especially for your mom there, Scott.
Yeah, the shout out for her mom was a lot of fun, a real opportunity there. But that's the thing about these shows is that there's always opportunities that come out of them that you didn't go in there to get. You just don't know what it's going to be. You know, you go there and it could be, you know, an interview that you hadn't had, or it's reconnecting with another journalist that you lost touch with, or it could be some old friends that you just, you know, met in the industry. And that's the beauty about the Arnold's. It's truly a trade show. There's trade happening all the time, you know, and it's not just about the Arnold Classic and, you know, the bikini class and the obviously men's open, but there's so many other things happening that weekend. And for me, I mean, I'm really torn between, you know, being the fan of the bodybuilding stuff and then obviously being a fan of the sports nutrition companies. And thankfully for us, Redcon One sponsored the contest coverage. So we obviously are really great that they were able to provide us with that. And then we obviously, it allows us to be able to do some of the things that the fans like. And it's great to see companies like that are supporting the industry, because there were so many other supplement companies who didn't get booths, who just went for quote unquote meetings. Whereas that doesn't help the promoters put on better events. That doesn't help the athletes get more sponsorship opportunities. It doesn't help the media sources be able to, you know, justify going down to these events. And you really want to, if you want to build the entire industry up and be your part, it's the supplement companies that sort of put in some way, some kind of effort into supporting the event, make the event a bigger, better event. So it was, we were grateful for them. So no, it was a really good experience overall with Arnold. You can't really say enough about him. I mean, the other day I heard it was a podcast. I think it was RX Muscle. It was actually Chris Aceto on Heavy Muscle Radio saying Ronnie Coleman's the greatest bodybuilder of all time. And theoretically, yes, you could say that. But I would argue that, I mean, the bodybuilding titles alone aren't the only thing you could sort of say is the measurement of who the greatest bodybuilder was, because I think the bodybuilder has a role not just to win Olympia titles, but it also is to be a good spokesmodel and ambassador for the sport, to grow the interest of the overall sport, and to do their part in making it better than when they leave it, than when they arrived at it. And I really, if you look at Arnold from not being able to speak English and living in Austria to coming to America and growing the way he did within the Olympia and with the IFBB Pro League, and then growing within the Weider organization and helping to put Weider on the map. I mean, he was their marquee athlete. And then later on, you know, going into politics, and then later, obviously doing the movies. I mean, the movie action heroes, we all sort of watched Terminator and, you know, and Conan and some of those movies. But also to then later on, when you have all the money that he has, to continue to go to Columbus, Ohio, when he could just do it in LA where he's based, and just continue to keep putting this event on. And I was at the 2020 Arnold's when the pandemic hit, and they canceled the expo like a day before the actual expo would have been set up. And the show still went on for the competitors, you know, but they lost a ton of money doing that. And you didn't have to do it as a business person, but it was the right thing to do for the actual sport. So a lot of people hate on Arnold's, but I think that it's a bit short-sighted. I mean, the whole screw your freedom thing that we saw that was clipped and taken out of context to what he was totally trying to say, which is the message of, hey, we all have to play by and adhere to rules. And if rules are rules, you know, nobody loves rules, but rules are put in place for certain reasons. And we can sit on one side or the other. And I think it was more of the message of the overall that was supposed to be there. but Arnold's a great guy. I really, I love what he's done. And so for me to get the chance to meet him was outstanding, but it was also outstanding to see Wendell and to see, obviously, Kevin and all the different people, Simon Lau, that was our photographer, and the different athletes, just reconnecting with everybody. The Arnold's always one of my favorite events.
So, well, as for Wendell, I'm sorry, for Kevin and Scott, do you feel that I didn't have a chance to go, unfortunately, this year? Do you feel it was healthy again? I know we can't compare the last 3 years, but let's say 18, 19. Do you feel we're back at full capacity, or is it still kind of a little light?
I think the fans are feeling the buzz of it. I think the supplement companies they're getting there. They're coming along. Like there's companies like MuscleTech, Mutant, and things like that showed up with authority. I'd say, like, they showed up, you wouldn't know anything happened. Like those brands, there was just All Max a little bit, but I mean, there's brands like that you wouldn't know anything happened. If someone hibernated you for a little while and you came back, there was no Wuhan, you wouldn't know anything happened. But I mean, there's other companies I won't mention them, because I mean, you wouldn't mention them because they're not there. That's the whole point, right?
Yeah,
so you'd mention them if they're there. When you're a fan and you come back out of an expo and you come home and you dump everything all over your bed, you start lining it all up. This is before social media, and then you're telling all your buddies of all the samples you got, and you were impressed with like the company that gave you the most. Like, not,
of course,
and you're like, holy crap, look at all this, and you're all stimmed out for like a month. You go to the expo now, and you come out of there. I'm not even crapping you. You could go to the Olympia, and you could come out of there, and you won't even have a business card.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So it's changed in that aspect, because it's like, I understand on the supplement side of things, it's a lot of money to make samples. Scott would know this more than I, but you're doing your cost analysis to see like how many samples is it gonna like to end up selling a $69 thing of pre-workout. Is it worth it? But yeah, on the supplement side, it still needs a lot of work, but the fans are there, and if the two match. See, if the supplement companies don't come to the plate, the fans will just back off a little bit, because they can just go and watch this stuff online.
Yeah.
Like the experiences, you still need to touch and smell everything in there and get stimmed out that weekend on all the samples, right?
Did you guys feel that the overall population was younger, or was it still, I'm going to be respectful, as older folks, or do you see the changing of the guard with the younger folks because of the younger bodybuilders now that are coming up?
No. I mean, the demographic is the demographic. It is a sport. I didn't see any difference with the age groups that it's attracting. It's not like it was a bingo convention where people are 50 plus and they grew up to Arnold. It wasn't like that. There's just different segments now. There's different goals that people have. Then now finally companies are catering to different goals. So the other thing that people, and I really want to say this just because it bothers me on the business side of it. People wanted to go back to the 2015 era when there was the mega booths, the big 100-foot booths, the double-decker booths that we all saw. But I saw, as Muscle Insider, calling on all these companies every single show, I saw a trend that started to happen in 2014, 2015, 2016. It slowly moved, which the big booth era was going away. And I saw companies going down to 20 foots. Or 20 by 20, and they were right sizing it, and it wasn't because they didn't have the money to do it. Is that they were realizing that it was a media mix that you needed. So instead of spending all of your money, $300K on an Arnold's, why don't you spend $150 and then have $150 set aside where you can do social media stuff, you can do sampling more, you can do demos more, you can do more YouTube videos, you can do different things, or if you're going to just do a show in the United States, it's going to be Olympia and Arnold. Do I have any money left to do FIBO, which is happening this weekend? Or do I have the Arnold South America now that that's available? Do I have money there? And almost when Arnold expanded his franchise globally, I saw a lot of companies sort of saying, okay, well, let me diversify a little bit of the money that I had for event marketing. So in some ways, just the industry has changed. The trend has changed. In magazines, I went by the wayside, but even that, if you look back, the magazine changes happen where instead of doing 10 pages of ads, a company might go down to 4. And then what would happen is smaller companies were doing ads. So it wasn't BSN at 16 pages and Cytosport there and MuscleTech there and all the big players, GNC. You sort of saw a handful of, like, muscular development would be filled with, 70, 80 different companies now, all doing small amounts of advertising rather than the big Goliath companies taking up all of it. And I saw the same thing in Expos. It wasn't just the big guys, it was smaller guys, but the same booth space was sold, the same floor space, but it was just more diversified, and better for the promoter to have diversification rather than just have the heavy hitters. And it's better for the consumer because now they get better choice. But what I get frustrated with is the people who come from the 2015 era and go, it's not like it used to be. None of the big players were there. Didn't see Optimum Nutrition there. They usually have a presence. GNC wasn't even there. And you hear all this stuff, or they'll say, oh, everybody had smaller booths. I mean, I guess they must be hurting. And it's like, well, no, they just got smart. And they're realizing that they have to, there's many more companies in the industry now. There's a lot of online companies that do have a presence at these places, but they don't need it there. It's a way to enhance what they do. But the era of the big booths is gone. I mean, unless you go to Europe or South America, you won't see it anywhere in the world. Actually, Dubai Muscle Show, you'll still see some big booth. That big booth era is still alive in Europe, in Dubai, and in South America. You do not see that at the Olympia or the Arnold. The big booth era is just over. But I think it's better because now good promoters like the Arnold Sports Festival are thinking, okay, I'm going to be a title sponsor and I'm going to get global brand exposure at my other events. I'm going to get more social media support than I would have ever got before. I'm going to get more just different ways of exciting and engaging the consumer. And that's really still, it's just better overall for the consumer too. So there's a lot of people who are at home who didn't see it, but saw some of the stuff on social media through the Arnold Sports Festival pages. The live streaming reaches a lot of different people. So it's just good that the promoters are diversifying the way that they reach the consumer and not relying on the expo to be the only way that I'm going to reach the fans. Because in 3 days, the show becomes over, so you kind of want to reach that. So I think it was well done. Will there be more supplement companies in the future? Absolutely. And what happens in this industry, it's a monkey see, monkey do industry. And anybody who's doing successful things, when they see that it works, people say, well, they must be on it. Companies that don't know what they're doing, look to the small, or look to the large and the mid-sized guys. The small guys look to the mid-sized and the large. The mid-sized companies look to the large. So when the large go there, the mid-sized go there. And it just becomes a domino effect. But I think that now, given the show with some of the big players at the Olympia and the Arnolds, this is a regrowing year, 2022, 2023. And now I think 2024, you're going to see a resurgence of a lot of the players that we grew up to in the last 5 years kind of coming back to these shows. I'm seeing that right now in FIBO. I'm seeing that last year, very few North American companies, much more this year. South America, the same thing. Arnold, South America is the strongest it's been in years. So I think you're going to see a resurgence. I just think it's going to be a different resurgence than what we grew up to. And I don't think that's any indication of anything more than just progress of who the players are that are taking the slices of the pie and how the promoters have responded to diversify the companies that they're working with. I think that's fair to say.
Wendell, I'm going to ask you 2 questions. And if you want to go, buddy, because I know we're kind of getting over your head here. Was this your first Arnold show that you've been to?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sure Dad probably told you that it was going to be very busy or crazy. Did you expect it to be as big and crazy as it was?
I thought it was gonna actually be even more busier, although I think it was on the 2nd or 3rd day, it was like packed. Like packed.
Okay.
Sardines packed. It was a really busy expo. So it was really cool, the energy, like, you go in there and the second, I think it was the Saturday was, when we rolled in, I guess it was a 10:45. We wanted to see the stage where some prejudging was happening. And like you could feel the buzz in the building, which is cool. In the sport. He's used to being at the Toronto Pro Show. They used to put on a pretty decent expo at the Metro Toronto Convention Center. which we haven't had in a while, unfortunately. Ron Hache, come on, get on it, buddy. But yeah, so he's used to like the crowds. It's just, you know, kind of like Toronto versus New York. It's like two big cities, but Toronto, like New York is, you know, Toronto on, you know, sustenance, you know, it's on steroids, right? So the Toronto Pro Show is a really nice pro show, and you know, we've had some great events there. It's just not the capacity that you get at the Arnold or the Olympia.
So Wendell, Scott was talking about boots. Were there any boots that like you liked or just surprised with, colors, or just any boots that really stuck out to you?
MuscleTech.
How much is Scott paying you? Hold on.
I know.
The reason MuscleTech is because there's a VR thing there where you worked out in VR, and it was actually really cool because instead of like different weights, it was just like machine, and every time you did a rep, it got heavier and heavier and heavier.
Okay.
And then the VR thing, I did it too. You know, you're smashing you know, it's like some character.
Like Rockman or
something like that. It was really
Iceman.
cool. And then, well, you didn't do it. Wasn't then he did some axe throwing. That was pretty cool.
I did
That's
axe
cool.
throwing.
You got it. Yeah, that was fun. Non-bodybuilding related, but
yeah.
Okay.
Also, there was this bodybuilding related. There was like these knights who were fighting, and it was like actually like they were hitting each other like full on. It was crazy.
Okay.
I interviewed one of them.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. Like they're not letting up. Like this, they're smashing the hell out of each other. It was pretty intense. Yeah. He thought that he was. If I would have left him alone, he would have hung out there for the afternoon. Yeah, watching it.
Yeah,
was it
that
like
was incredible.
What was like meeting Blessing? Because Blessing was one of the guys you met, right?
Yeah.
You met him before in Toronto.
Yeah, I've met him before in Toronto, but for meeting him again, it was cool. We did
He's a lot of energy.
He's
He's a lot of positivity, a lot of energy.
Yeah, I had him in. I had him at an interview with him at the Olympia too, and it was it's pretty funny. He's a really cool dude, and always a great interview.
Yeah, lots of energy.
And do you use any protein shakes? Does Dad give you any supplements?
No, not really.
No. Okay.
Oh, he keeps it all for himself.
Just bacon and eggs in the morning. We get
And
it.
sometimes chicken, rice, ground beef, ravioli.
Wait a minute. You're 12. I don't. How come I'm not hearing Pop-Tarts and everything else? Come on. What are you doing, Dad?
Pop-Tarts are good and all, but chicken and ground beef, especially Dad's ground beef, he makes it amazing.
Okay. So are you do you work out in the gym yet?
Not a lot, but my dad has some weights here, and I do some reps, and also we have a pull-up bar.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get him going. He'll get going slowly but surely, but he's a late bloomer, just like I was, so he'll get there.
Would you like to be on stage one day, or is that not the right thing for you?
I don't know yet.
Okay. Got a lot of time, my friend. Got a lot of time. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy the hockey. Enjoy the baseball. You get into the age, junior high school, you'll have girls looking at you. You'll have a good time. Don't worry.
He's got Dad teaching him the front relax that he can use in the hallway.
Yeah.
And how did you guys meet?
The flex on the on the locker, he can kind of just do that arm flex as he's taking.
Well, Scott has a good story about how we met.
How did you guys meet?
The same one you told Wendell there, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, Toronto Pro Show. I saw a gentleman named Big V. We all know Valerio. I don't know how to say his last name, Mosca. Anyways, Big V is kind of like the local promoter, the guy who knows the guys in the U.S., all the pros, and so he's that guy. One of the groupies. I guess I don't want to call him a groupie or fanboy, but he's almost, I don't know, part of their entourage he becomes. And so he used to bring these guys to Toronto for different store appearances and different events. And he would always he'd get them bookie, I guess you could call him. I don't know. I don't quite know.
Okay.
No, he'd be promoted. And then, guys like me would go around and promote it even more. Yeah.
But he would get them like a gig at this supplement store, a gig at this gym 2 hours later, a gig at this other one. And the original person flew them in, but he'd get them other jobs while they're actually in town, but the part that would be like, I never really understood was he'd end up being their chauffeur. Like, so he'd have to pick him at the airport, and then you'd have to take him. And oftentimes they'd stay at his house, and then he'd have to get all this food. I remember hearing the stories about how much like Ronnie would be eating and Jay would be eating and stuff like that, but mostly with Ronnie would be eating, and how it's constantly having to get him running around getting all these guys food. And in the end, when you find out that it was really all the money the pro made, but he didn't actually make any in between. Like there's times when he did, but I think a lot of times he didn't, and he just loved it. Just absolutely loved being part of it all. So, anyways, he brought them to, I think there was a Jay Cutler seminar that he brought them, and the other time was he brought a series of pros at the Toronto Pro Show. I think that was another time when we brought Dorian Yates. And I think Big V brought, was it Ronnie at that?
Yeah, it was Ronnie, yeah.
So anyways, I was by the table, and they had the different shirts being sold and things like that because he had his own clothing line, Big V did. And I saw this guy just kind of collecting all the money and kind of running the show. And he just had like so much confidence in ordering the athletes here and the lineup there and just kind of running everything. And I thought, geez, we're doing a Muscle Insider. I was like, this guy's really good. This guy really knows the athletes. He knows the fans. He knows like putting it all on. I thought, who is this guy? How do I not know this guy? I'm in Toronto and I don't know this guy. But then you see these images, and then later it's like, okay, well, I think was that guy, where do I remember him from? Was it the Phil Heath seminar that MuscleTech brought Phil Heath to Toronto, and he had like, they put these amazing gift bags together, and I went to that training camp and just trying to place all these things. But anyways, I don't remember because obviously it's been a while in terms of which event it was, but I do remember meeting him and then seeing photos later and saying, oh, there's that guy. That's that guy. That was that. And then I think there was an Evan Centopani, I think it was 2015 in World Gym, I think in Scarborough, an opening. I saw him there as well. So we've seen each other at all these different events in Toronto with a passion for bodybuilding and fitness and everything else. And there was just this name you could always remember, like Kevin McAllister, it was just this, you could kind of remember that McAllister and Shamrock Fitness, So anyways, go ahead, Kevin, you tell me.
Yeah, I remember Scott too, because I saw him all at these things, and I remember connecting to, and like in magazines or some spots, because he was with MuscleTech and like the original back in the day stuff, and seeing booths and seeing who they brought on and actually physically buying their magazine, so, and you can't miss the Muscle Insider, mine's in the laundry, but yeah. Then walking up to Scott a few times and just saying hi and being at their booth, because Muscle Insider always had like a really cool booth, or the cage. We've done like the cage before, right, when we did it together. But then there was one time, I don't know how I got it, but they did a fanny pack.
That's right.
And then,
wow.
So I don't know, this is like 8-10 years ago at the Olympia. And I was like, I don't even know if Instagram was there, it was Twitter or something. And I took a shot, and then I see them remember the year you guys actually had the booth at the Olympia?
We did the booth. Yes, that's right.
And so I came up, I saw Scott and Janet there, and I just showed them the fanny pack. And I'm like, the Muscle Insider fan. So it's a tradition now. It goes with me to every single bodybuilding show. It's beaten to hell. But now it's like the thing. So I'll just take a picture of it, send it to Scott, because I'm going to a bodybuilding show. Right. So, and we became friends. And like we said, we have a common interest and passion for the industry, the sport. And it's cool. Like, Scott's now a father as well. So we have other things outside of being Canadian and bodybuilding. So we have other things to bond over. That it makes it more of a connection, because now we're friends, we're fathers. So it's like another bond that I think, especially since he became a dad, and I think he'll agree with me, it's like a tighter bond, because now he knows, now he relates now, and he's like, yes, I get it. Because for years it was just me there dragging the kid around to every single show, right? Like literally, this kid's been to every Toronto Expo, changing diapers in like the corner and all that stuff. It's like, oh, you know, wipe my hands and then go meet a pro bodybuilder, right?
Also, at the Arnold, Dad was wearing the fanny pack all the time.
Yeah, we thought that those things would be a bigger hit. We thought we did this. We bought about 100 of them from India, and we got stuck with almost 100. We got stuck with 99 of them. You know,
Yeah,
like,
I got one of them, but yeah.
So you've got the only original one in existence then, huh, Kevin?
I might, yeah. And they tell you though, they are definitely relationship breakers. Women do not love the Muscle Insider fanny pack, but
no,
yeah,
it just takes a special woman to appreciate the fanny
everybody
pack.
wears them now this way though.
Yeah,
so I don't
just
understand.
like,
If you wear it this way, it's cool. If you wear it around your waist, you're a meathead, right?
Yeah, that's just yeah. They're just trying to deny like where it really belongs, around the waist proud. You know, I think Dan Dillon, the mayor of bodybuilding, we got to get him one as well. I think that he would he'd rock the fanny pack proudly at the Arnolds and the Olympia. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's all, you know, it's funny. Kevin, you touched on some key things, and obviously, and Sean. So when we all have incomes outside of this. I mean, Wendell's in school outside of this, but this is a hobby. It's fun. We enjoy it. It's a Sunday. It's what we're doing with our time. Yeah. And we have that common thing. We can be different parts of the world, and we're able to use technology to obviously connect this way. There's people that are watching this live stream. They're saying, hey, you know, I really enjoy bodybuilding, and it's kind of cool. These guys are making a living off of it. But it's just this, the passion that you have. If you can be a part of it, it's whatever you want to put into it, you know. And I said that to Kevin before. If you go to the show and if you want to interview as many people as you can, here's the mic, you know, like, and if you practice more, you'll get even more out of it. And if you practice even more or you research the athletes, you'll get even more out of it, because they'll reciprocate back with even more things, or they'll really warm up to you, the fact that you did take the time to interview them and knew something about them. And that's really a big difference. I've had times where we did Hadi Chupin in Vancouver when he won the Vancouver Pro, where we didn't know he was going to be there. He was the closest time he'd ever been into the US. If you look on he actually took photos of him at the border. They took where, you know, and at that time we were going through, you know, I think it was the US had banned Iran from being able to have anybody come into the country with their special circumstances. So it was the closest he would ever get to the Olympia in terms of physically, geographically on the border here. But he did a speech afterwards and had a translator translating it. But we went backstage and had a translator do an interview with us with them. And it was just, I was sitting there saying, it's shocking to see that we are getting this thing happening right now in the world where people are thinking this is wrong. You shouldn't keep good people out of America. And we're having someone who's vocalizing that through the Muscle Insider platform with an interpreter. And I was like, how the hell did this happen? Like, you know, like how did I become part of this right now at this part in the world where you're facilitating a message to go to a lot of people? And you say to yourself, well, geez, am I ever glad I went? Am I ever glad I dressed right? I'm glad I put the blue light up, put a little bit of effort into it. You guys did too. Like it's whatever you make of it, you know? And I think that's the thing is, a lot of people sit back and they want opportunities in the industry, but they don't want to try. They don't want to put the work in, and they just want the opportunity rather than to create the opportunity. And I think that's you know, that's
why I told Wendell for the Arnolds why he was in a suit. For finals. I know, like, it was I didn't even have a news. I bought a suit for that one because none of my other ones fit me. Luckily it's because I put on muscle and not.
It's because he's using Celtec. There's the Celtec drop, the side delts. Right. Exactly. It's specifically on the side delts as it targets.
It spots the wherever you want it when you take it. Yeah, he's
using the OG with alpha lipoic acid.
But he's also Kriakic.
And he's using that swole soap. We did that April Fool's. He used the swole soap and he rubbed the swole soap on the side.
The swole soap worked good. But like it's what I said to Wendell, and I told a buddy this years and years ago, just as fans at the Olympia. I said, when we're going down, I said, make sure you bring a collared shirt. He's like, what do we need? I need a collared shirt for? I go, we're going to finals. We're not wearing jeans and so hey, Matt, if you're watching, we went to finals and he did, yeah, bought a Branch Warren shirt, and it's a nice shirt, but in the jeans, and I was wearing dress pants and a dress shirt, and then I bumped into this is way back, like Aaron and PJ back in like Iron Labs days, and I posed for a picture of them because we're all wearing collars in the proper way. I got through to VIP area only because I was wearing a collared shirt. I had John De La Rosa wave at me because I saw him earlier, and I waved, and I just walked past security because I looked like I was supposed to be there.
Yeah.
So I told him, I said, it's no different than the World Series, Stanley Cup, NBA, Super Bowl. This is it. So we're going there as professionals, and we're going to dress professional, and we're going to look good. It's, you clean up well, and there's a really cool picture of that you had posted there, like the three of us with
you guys are phenomenal.
It's something to set. And then even laughed at the end of the night when Scott's had his hands on his shoulders in the elevators, his ties off. It was like 2:00 in the morning. So, but yeah, that's treat the industry with class. The industry will treat you classy back, right?
So Wendell, my last question, I promise. And if you want to go with your friends, I know you're trying to wait.
He's good.
I can go for more questions.
He's good.
Okay. So are you going to do this again? Are you going to go to the Arnold again next year and do the same thing all over again? Do you have the passion, or is it just a one-shot deal?
Well, yes, I'm definitely going to the Arnold, but this year in November, I'm going to the Olympia in Orlando.
There we go.
Nice.
So
who's going to be on your list?
Toronto Pro, June we'll do there. And then I've planned a little road trip to Chicago in July to the Chicago Pro, because I want to see the pro debut of Justin Shire. I think that's going to be a pretty impressive package that him and Camp Jansen there are going to do. So it's like a 7.5, like an 8-hour drive. Go see the Bean and the big silver bean there, and it's a big. I think it'll be another road trip. Good little thing. Go for like 2 nights.
Oh, and also when I go to the Olympia, I'm gonna ask some guys to go to Disneyland.
Yes.
So bodybuilders.
Well, Nick Walker was in Toronto a couple weeks ago at the Pure Muscle and Fitness show, and he guest posed. It was pretty crazy online. Everybody, him and Quentin, Antoine, Robin Strand doing their guest pose with Kyle, first kid with Down syndrome to ever compete in a bodybuilding show in Canada.
I love that kid. Love that kid.
He's a beauty. He's a beauty, as we say in hockey. So, so those guys there, he chatted with Nick, and Nick told him, what did Nick tell you about Disney? He's probably forgotten. Nick told him that he would, if or when he wins the O, that he would pull him up on stage and let him interview him on stage at the Olympics.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
So Wendell, here's a question: when you're interviewing people at the O, find the biggest bodybuilders and ask them if they ride a small world with you. I don't know if you're aware of that ride.
I'm gonna do that. I'm obviously asking Nick. Do you think James is gonna be there?
James will probably be at the Olympia. He might not compete. He's taking this year off.
Do you think Big Rami's gonna be there?
Big Rami he's qualified for life. So
ask Samson. Samson's a big boy. Ask him.
Yeah, Big Rami. Let's see that they all go. I was joking with him. Maybe they'll go on a teacup ride.
Here you go.
Teacup's gonna break.
I mean, if they go to, I told them, I said, I'll get an extra credit card to pay for the tickets if I can get him on, and a bunch of guys to go. It'll go viral. Can you imagine
that
like
10
awesome bodybuilders
shot.
with the ears?
Oh yeah.
You have like 1,000 pounds, 1,200 pounds of people on the teacups. That would be phenomenal.
Teacup's gonna go like instead of going like normal speed, going like.
That would be really cool. That was super cool.
So I got a question for Kevin and Scott here. This is on the supplement side, because I have a gentleman that's a longtime follower. He's asking a question, and I don't know if he wants to open up his own supplement line, but he says, do you think a protein line dedicated to Italian pastry is a good idea? Like rainbow cookie, cannoli, tiramisu. Just wondering what you would think on that. I know there's a rainbow cookie by Muscle Sport, but what are your thoughts on an Italian protein line?
Well, the Paisans would definitely be okay with like chunks of S cookie in a cook. I think it would work in the neighborhood if we did a one-off. What do you think, Scott?
I kind of come at it from a few different ways. I guess I don't understand fully the concept. Are we talking, I just want to come out with protein powder in flavors that Italians will like?
Exactly.
If there's a small enough market, if it's a segment that's big enough to make it worth your while, if geographically it's close enough to proximity of where the company is to make it worth your while, if you have the inroads into that community, if you can truly make the product differentiated enough, if you can get enough minimum order quantities for a manufacturer to work with you, and also, will they pay a price? Will they pay a premium for it? I mean, there's always opportunities coming in the space, but it's a matter of you can be so niche that you've become too niche to be able to scale.
Yep.
You know, you can be the number one selling fat burning creatine that is all vegan, that is also halal certified, that is also
kosher.
Yeah. Like it can become so niche that there's no further scale down you can go. And I think that you just have to know.
There's a tiramisu, isn't there? Someone's got to have it.
Tiramisu,
Old School Labs, I think. Old School Labs has tiramisu. Now that you bring it up.
Yeah. Mr. Nick Trigilli.
Yeah.
But he's got a vegan one too. You don't have vegan tiramisu. I don't think they can do that, can you?
Still tastes like plants.
Okay, same question though. What about a pre-workout with an Italian double espresso flavor?
Yeah, I mean, you see this happening right now in mass market. You look at Monster Energy and you see coffee flavors, mocha flavors. You see Dunkin' Donuts with RTDs in Walmart. You see Bang Energy do the keto. Their ketones.
No, they got their mocha. Bang had the mocha. Those things are addictive.
Yeah, so the coffee flavors in that, I don't think that's too far off. In terms of what would work. I also think there's an opportunity. I see this a lot in ice creams, and I see this with like in Toronto. There's like an ice cream sandwich place where it's specific homemade ice cream, specific homemade cookies, and combining those to one thing. And there's lineup at the door. It's funny that in the pandemic, with everybody so price conscious, you see like My Cookie Dealer exploding. You see all these other brands that are, truly going all in on delicacies. Because the one thing is that when you're depressed, you eat. When you're celebrating, you eat. It's recession-proof junk food, And so would we be able to go boutique protein powders, less like we can do boutique coffee shops and boutique donut shops? And I don't see why you couldn't, if you could really cater to that. And be very regional. You see this in microbreweries all the time where they're, local microbrewery and they cater to their community within that. If there was a protein, I'm surprised no one's done it in protein powder, where it's kind of like if there was a local dairy factory that does local drying, it's done in the same place a lot of times. And then there was local branding associated with a certain community. Consumers want to know where their stuff is made. They want to see things that are part of their community, traceability of ingredients. I can't see why you couldn't carve out certain niches within that, especially if you went on the end of premium and taste and purity. I think you could go there. I think there's always room for someone to try a protein powder. I was talking, my brother-in-law is a dentist. And, when you go to your dentist, you stay with your dentist. Unless they're really bad or unless you move, you pretty much stay. You stay with that. You stay with your family doctor for a long time. So when they get a family doctor gets enough patients, they're pretty much maxed. They don't really have much more room. And I mean, Ontario, Kevin could say firsthand that this is a big problem when there's not enough doctors to service the community. In Vancouver, it's a little bit better. But the point is that when you get into your dentist and you get your customer base, you're good. you know, and then unless you hire more dentists below you, you really can't take on more than a certain level of customers. For dietary supplements, Rich Gasperi said to me one time years ago, he said, you know, I always look at the second sale, not the first, because anyone can sell them a pre-workout or a protein once, but if they rebuy it, then it really did deliver on its promise. And I think there is something to be said in that. But I think what's interesting about supplements is the lack of loyalty. You'll switch protein powder if they see a buy one, get one half off, or they sample one at the Arnold. We see it all the time where they're wearing a MuscleTech shirt and they're walking out with their euphoric pre-workout, but in their hand, they've got a protein powder from somebody else. So they got another pre-workout from Bucked Up, or they're like, okay, well, I thought you just, you know, that's the one with paraxanthine, and that's the one that, yeah, but I like Bucked Up, and there was a thing they were going 2 for 1, or like whatever it is. And I've seen it on forums, getbig.com and bodybuilding.com back in the day forums, where someone's really happy with Super Pump. They're bragging about it in the chat. And someone starts talking about the NO Explode. And then someone else says, oh, that stuff sucks. And then someone else says, Jack 3D is the real deal. And then you'll see the person who was talking up Super Pump say, where, you know, how much is it? You know, and then you'll see the chat further saying, oh yeah, where can I get it? What's the best flavor? And as this is happening within 3 hours, you're like, wait a sec, you were the one who was the poster boy for that particular pre-workout, telling everybody it's the shit. Now you're actually just switched, and I just see the chat where the other people switched you. But I thought it was the best workout of your life, you know, like, so it's amazing that you know, getting the second sale is really difficult in supplements because you're constantly having a consumer open to switching protein powders, pre-workouts, and you know, nitric oxide stimulators. There really is the lowest amount of loyalty ever now in sports nutrition.
Well, that's because it's just too flooded. I mean, back then we didn't have 1.5 million companies as we do now.
Definitely.
Yeah,
But you know what?
Now too, it's there's not as much loyalty. Like used to too, is you'd have your athlete, and whatever they were doing, you wanted to do, and you only knew it because you open up the magazine, and there's all these guys, and that's what they're doing. So you just follow. It's like you like the Celtics. You're wearing Converse. Because, you know, if Bird's wearing Converse, well, you know, no one even knows who he is anymore, but still. Anyways, you know what I mean? And it's Jordan, like you wore your Jordans. And if you couldn't afford it, you'd try and rip off someone else's feet, something like, you know what I mean? But now even the athletes switch, just like professional athletes aren't loyal to a contract to their team. Neither are the supplement athletes. They're not getting these deals that last. Like, I mean, if you think, like, you take a company like Hostile, who had Nick Walker and is like right there throwing it, and they're about to throw the kitchen sink and everything, and then poof, he's gone.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the buzz of it all, and then he gets picked up by HD, like a Canadian company based out of Burlington. If I asked anyone south of the 49th, they couldn't find Burlington with Google. So now he's with them. And then, you know, you have some other athletes, but so now you just went and you just spent shit ton of money loading your cabinet full of Hostile, paying $30, importing it to Canada. And now you're just going to be like, oh, he's with HD. I'm going to not use any of this stuff now because I'm going to buy HD. No, the guys aren't like that anymore. They're like Scott said, they're going to go into a supplement store, a Popeyes or a GNC or a Supplement King, and whatever's 2 for 1 today is what's going to fill my cabinet, because it's also inflation and my money matters. So the ingredients on a lot of the stuff are the same when you really flip it around. And if you don't know the differences, you're just going for the quick buck and, you know, something that has 400 milligrams of caffeine.
But do you think people, I think the overall supplement user population is more educated now because of Google and social media and everything else. My strict opinion, I don't know if the ambassador, the athlete, whatever you want to pull it, is actually pulling in the customers anymore. Like back in the days, you'd open up, see Lee Haney, Twin Lab. I'm using that. Dorian Yates using X. Maybe the less informed are following the athlete or the ambassador to that brand. But I think now we're looking more at just the ingredients, what it does versus who's backing it. And maybe I'm wrong.
You're right. There is a change. There's no doubt that the device has a different effect on the consumer. I mean, back in the day, we didn't know that a lot of these pros use steroids. I mean, for the most part, you cannot compete as a pro without the use of steroids at the highest level. You can't, but that's for any sport. You know, I don't believe you can. And you might, but you might complain then that you lose because somebody else is enhanced, and we could take that whole conversation a different direction. But it comes down to the believability of the type of athlete you have. But I've found it fascinating that in the lifestyle circle, the lifestyle brands, you have the brands where people are reading a label, and then you have the consumer base who's reading a label, and you have the consumer base who isn't. They're there, they don't turn the label, they don't know what that stuff is, but they check in at the gym, they make sure they got the right outfit on, they make sure they take the right angle of their selfie, they make sure everybody knows that they got to the gym to grind. But I don't know that they really know what alpha GPC is, or how it works, or huperzine works, or the dose of what the difference between teacrine and dynamine is. Or they just know that this is what they do, and then why do they dry scoop? It makes no sense
Absolutely
whatsoever.
no sense. It's harmful.
If they looked up the physiology, the fact that you need to dissolve any powder to a liquid to absorb it, they would take water with it. And the fact that the solubility will increase with water, and it will be digested even faster if it's actually swallowed. I mean, the theory of it, maybe using your buccal glands or your sublingual glands or whatever, you're not going to get that whole delivery of that whole formula in through those glands. It's not going to happen. And what it does to your enamel on your teeth, it wasn't designed for that, and on your tongue, it was not designed for this, and will you breathe, inhale that stuff? The stuff was never meant. It was a dietary supplement for oral consumption. It wasn't never meant to be breathed. You can go on YouTube and see people snorting pre-workouts because they think it's just the wrong. I've seen videos of people snorting creatine. It's
the trend twins. Yeah.
So I think that the level of knowledge has improved in some ways. You're right. But if you're using an athlete to try to just have them smile beside the bottle, like it would be Lou Ferrigno was, his heavyweight game. What was it? He was the Infinity Mega Mass 4000 with his box.
Oh, sure, yeah.
No one's going to buy. The consumer's too smart. They know that these guys are not just taking supplements; they're using a lot of different things. But I think you have to go in with an honest approach. And when you're using an athlete now of a celebrity status like that, you have to utilize them in your mix. They draw attention to it. And like for what we do at MuscleTech, I want an athlete who understands what they're swallowing. We go through rigorous training on the legality of what they can say and they can't say, because we don't want false claims out there. And then in terms of product education, we spend time to educate them on the products that are there. And I think any responsible supplement company needs to do that, because reality is the consumers are smart. Not all of them are. Like, there's different levels of their sophistication depending on how mature they are in the market, depending on how much reading they do. But even with the amount of misinformation that's out there in bro science, there's a lot of misinformation about that leads to different products. But I mean, the best formulas sometimes, oftentimes, are not the best sellers. I just had this discussion with a person in South America, and he was complaining about, in Brazil specifically, about some of the quality control within inside that market. And its reality is that the number one quality products are so expensive to make that they don't have any money for the marketing, and so there's commercialization and there's what could work in a lab. And we could go down that whole rabbit hole on that side of it, but you definitely the use of ambassadors, the use of like affiliates. I think Redcon has done a phenomenal job on that side. All companies are working with ambassadors and affiliates at some point, but I think that you really just can't rely on your athletes to do everything for you. And back in the day, you could. You could have Ronnie Coleman pushing NO Explode, and people bought it. I had friends that worked directly there when Ronnie Coleman was on board and said, specifically, people bought it. Some of these consumer base bought it because they loved Ronnie Coleman, and you see this right now with his Ronnie Coleman signature series. That it sells really well overseas. Why? Because it's Ronnie Coleman stuff. And I don't know that it's because that way is much better when there's about 4 companies that make all the whey in the world. It's just they want to buy Ronnie Coleman's whey. They want to buy the yeah buddy, and that's just part of this. It's fashion. It's part of the fashion almost.
I think too is now the brands that do it really well is their athletes through YouTube and Instagram and stuff are building relationships with an audience, and it's like you're following them along, and it's just there that it's before their YouTube video, they talk a little bit and they catch up and they explain what they're like, they're training back that day. And then they just, they place the products there, and it's not necessarily a hard sell. It's a very soft, just, subliminal messaging in a way that it's there. I'm taking my X, whatever it is I'm taking before my train. And maybe I'm going to add a little bit of my intra something today because I'm pulling, I'm doing some deadlifts, and then they talk back and forth. But I've also noticed like the evolution of like selling clothing as well as the supplements. And it seems like certain brands out there are almost pushing their clothing line and their swag as much, if not more, than the athlete or their product. And it's branding, which is important, but it's all kind of woven together so that it's whether you're seeing the shirt, whether you're seeing the shaker cup, whether it's just something like a CDX that they have, or whether it's Pico 2 or any little vitamin D, you know what I mean? Like there's all these things that they have. So it doesn't always mean that the person is selling the product, because it's a relationship. And you see this person's up and it's their, day of eating. You'll see Chris Bumstead will do like, what's up YouTube? And here he comes again with another, and there's something thrown in there from Revive. It's his fiber and everything. So it's a really loose sell. Like, and he's not throwing in, use my code.
Yeah.
That's kind of that use the code, that hard thing. It's kind of been passed away, just like YouTube, the whole like and subscribe and hit that button. People kind of push that aside too. So it's now more of a relationship building, I see. And that's when people start to really feel like they know the athlete. So when they walk up to him at an expo, and through podcasts like this, there's you didn't get that same feeling when you read a magazine.
No,
you don't feel like Ronnie Coleman just because you saw the NO2 ad and you saw him, squatting 800 pounds. You didn't know him. Now you feel like you get to know these guys a little bit more.
Last question, and we'll wind down, Jen. So we're at a shift right now with open bodybuilding. Okay, a lot of the new and upcoming young folks, where the people of the 2000s and even the teens are now slowly retiring and stepping away. What are your thoughts on your overall health right now? We're in a big shift.
I think, I'll be 48 this month. I've been following this stuff since I was Wendell's age. In my lifetime, I don't see bodybuilding being any healthier. It is on a trajectory right now that's pretty amazing, because we have aesthetics. We still have freaks. With classic, you got another category that brings in a whole segment of people that it's more realistic, even though it's totally not. Like, you'll never look like that. So, but it's more realistic in the sense, and if it's more people be like, oh, okay, I can see why you would want to look like that, versus what the hell? Like, why would you ever want to look like that? There's that. Now it's kind of covered both ends. It's covered. Yeah. So I think the sport's really healthy, and especially globally, with like all the continents seem to be represented. It's not just an American thing. You got Canadians in the mix. Nigeria is like destroying, like killing it. Yeah. Now everybody's going to go want to know where Nigeria is, you got a real global sense. The Middle East, which was never there, is there. I think it's really, really healthy, and it's just, and it's more inclusive in the sense, kids, it's more friendly. There's more knowledge. They're not hiding behind the, we don't take steroid BS now. It's out there. So, I think it's really healthy. And with podcasts and social media, you really get to reach out to your audience for these athletes. And any of them that are shying away from it are really missing an opportunity to cash paychecks 20 years after they leave the stage.
Kevin, roll the same age, and Scott, I'll defer to you in a minute. Roll almost the same age. What was the best decade?
I think it's kind of like hockey. You can't really say because every decade, like I can't put. We were talking about Sidney Crosby before we turned on here. You can't take Sidney Crosby and then take like let's just say it, like the greatest. You can't take Sidney Crosby and put him in Gretzky's era and take Gretzky and put it in today's era and see how it goes, because it's totally different. I don't want to hear any of the crap that the guys don't train as hard as the guys like Kevin Levrone and them. You know, they might train smarter now because they have equipment that Arnold and them didn't have. They take more. They put more stuff in their bodies nowadays.
Yeah,
which they probably don't need. So, I don't know. Like guys like Lee Priest and stuff still look pretty good. Kevin Levrone looks like Adonis. You know, those guys did it right. But then there's other guys. Look at Ronnie. Like, I love the guy. But
yeah, he suffered.
He suffered. Jay Cutler. Look at Jay doing fit at 50. He's a beaut, right?
Yeah.
So.
So Scott,
I have to add something. Dad and I and other people as well, we went out with a steak dinner with Ronnie Coleman.
Really?
Cool.
When?
Thursday night while we were in Columbus, we went to the Hyde. I have to thank Andrew Desario, Proper Six there. Shout out to him for taking us out. That was a nice little intimate dinner at the Hyde there. So like a 12-year-old thinks it's normal to break bread with Ronnie Coleman. Right? I mean, I've had the fortune of knowing Ron a long time, and I consider him a friend. But Mr. Wendell here, having a steak, nice little filet mignon with Ronnie Coleman.
I've never heard anything negative from Ronnie. He's definitely one of the good ones. Like any interaction from anybody, even as much pain as he is and whatnot, he's always for the fans.
Yeah.
I've seen him like literally like lie down right after wheeling him into his hotel room after a day at the Expo. You know, saying hi and pictures and, you know, a long day. And, you know, and then even later in the night after dinner, people see him and stop him and he'll never say no. And same with Jay. Like two guys like that, like Jay, to me, like we were talking about the greatest before, is that's why Jay Cutler, like if there's this like Mount Rushmore, he's there because of what he's done for the fans. And, you know, my boss always says, you know, you see 10% of things. You only see 10% of what people do or whatever. So, you know, that's it. We only see 10% of what Jay Cutler does. Yeah. And the 90% we never see. All the military bases he goes to, all the things he does, the shows he puts on himself. So guys like that, the pros now, like I spoke to Nick Walker, they want to emulate Jay Cutler and what he's done with his fans. And it's not always about podcasts and interviews and everything. It's the stuff that you do that no one films.
Yeah.
Right?
Wendell, do you ever tell your friends about these people you meet? Do they know who they are or do they care?
Yeah, I do tell my friends. And, well, a bit ago, this guy came in, like, to the school to talk about stuff. And then he started talking about working out. And he says, yes, it's good to work out. And then he went to the bodybuilding side, like what we're talking about. And then he was like, and they dehydrate themselves. Oh, you can't maintain it. And then I'm like, well, it's not every day they dehydrate themselves. They dehydrate themselves like before shows, and you can maintain being fit. Like you don't have to be like enormous. Like you don't need to be enormous, but you can be like them and still maintain that. And the only time they dehydrate is like before a show.
So was he surprised to hear this great knowledge from someone so young, or was he like, what did he say after that?
Yeah, he was surprised that I even said that and knew that.
He wasn't a fan of bodybuilding, so I figured he must have been like CrossFit / long distance runner.
Oh well,
CrossFitter
into vegan shakes.
Oh my gosh. So as we wind down, Scott, anything new and exciting from the MuscleTech side you want to share?
You know what? There's always stuff going on. FIBO Germany right now this weekend is just wrapping up over there, and Arnold South America and Brazil, things are wrapping up there. So two of the biggest fitness festivals in the world, and we're at them at the exact same weekend. So that's been a big focus for us. And then obviously just getting things prepared for some new products that we're going to be coming out with. No, just every day. I mean, new team members have joined us, which has been great. So we're really gearing up. And in my experience, it's really not the powder, it's the people. So with the right people in any supplement company, it really allows you to have the best connections with different fans and with different gatekeepers within the industry, with different athletes, and the different know-how to sort of avoid the pitfalls that you face as you are building your brand up. So I get as excited with bringing new staff on as I do with bringing new athletes on. Yeah, I really do. And a lot of people think it's about the athletes, and that's one component. But if you can't utilize the athletes in a way that helps them build their brand and building your brand, if you can't leverage that asset, it's just like a car in the garage. It's just sitting there and you're not really even driving it. You're really not getting the utilization of it. So with the right staff is literally, for me, it's like building a baseball team. With every player in each spot, you could win the World Series if you had all-stars, and we've got an all-star team. Yep. So working on that, and it's been fun doing that. And obviously this is contest season right now with Muscle Insider, so we have a lot of different events that are happening now throughout the season. So that's our focus. But that's about it, guys. But listen, I really appreciate the time that you've taken for us. Unfortunately, I can hear down the hallway my son is saying, Scott, it's time that we get on the road. But I appreciate, Wendell and Kevin, what you guys did for us at the Arnold, and looking forward to seeing you at the Olympia, and obviously all the pro shows this year, the Toronto Pro and the Chicago Pro and all that work. And Sean, I really appreciate what you do with Supp Talk Radio and continue to do. And I really appreciate having the opportunity to be here.
Scott, plug your website, your social media, and then go ahead and go take care of the baby.
Sure. It's muscleinsider.com and Scott Welch Live on Instagram. So obviously do some work for a company called MuscleTech also, you guys are probably familiar with. But that's Perfect. It, guys. I have to go.
Thank you soon, Scott.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you, Scott. Bye. Take care. And Wendell, where can people follow you on your Instagram, Mr. Popular here?
Well, on Instagram, I'm Flex Wendell, and my dad is
_ Shamrock Fitness. You'll be able to see this young man at the Toronto Pro Show. Also, after that, we're going to road trip to Chicago, and maybe we'll catch a ball game while we're there too. And other than that, we're just, normal father-son Fridays and our weekends together, just being father and son. That's all. But I really appreciate this, and we appreciate Vinny as well, and hope he destroys it over in Romania.
Yeah, we're T-minus 9 days and counting here. It's the 22nd they announce it, so I'm going to stay positive here. But Wendell, before I forget, Flex Wendell, is it Flex Lewis or Flex Wheeler or just Flex in general? Who's he named after? What's the nickname after?
Well, this is where it came from. So it didn't come from any of those guys that you just named. It's actually because when I was little, all I would do was flex and pose.
Yeah, he used to, when he was little, like little, just walking and everything, I'd flex at him and he'd just go around and he would do the mandatories and he would always do the Jay Cutler foot stomp. And I'd be like, do Jay Cutler. And he would, abs and thighs all the time. So we made him, created him his Instagram account there. I just said, hey, it's Flex Wendell. So.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm not that active on my Instagram though. So
he wants some followers. Don't come on, he wants some followers.
Sure.
So give him a follow. But gents, thank you again. It truly was a pleasure. And
yeah, it was awesome, man. I really appreciate it, son. This is an opportunity for him and myself that we can't thank you enough of.
Thank you.
And hopefully, Wendell, next year I'll be at the Arnold, and hopefully I'll be on your reel there of interviews. But for anybody listening, please follow me on Supp Talk _radio. And this Wednesday, we have Tom Terwilliger on the Masters Muscle Podcast. Thank you so much.